What's up, guys? Intentional back with yet another video, and today I figured I'd mix it up a little bit. You see, I'm in the middle of actually making an ultimate guide for Moonkin and Classic, and I thought it'd be fun to rewatch my two older guides and kind of point out anything wrong or anything that I've changed my opinion on. So with all that being said, let's just hop into it. Alright, cringy intro. I dig it. So I just want to start this guide out on how to be a boomy by saying that you're never going to be number one. By that I mean you're never going to be number one in DPS. You're never going to be like number one in healing. Because sad face. It's true. You're not going to be
DPS,
number one.
So as a boomkin, there's always going to be someone out there doing more DPS than you, especially mages and Fury Warriors. They're always going to be at the top.
Especially Fury Warriors.
But that doesn't mean that you're not worth it in raids. You could definitely pull around. I would say top to 7 to 15 DPS, kind of hover around that area. So you're definitely going to hold
more around
weight.
15.
That doesn't mean you're not viable, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, there is a huge difference between viable and like not even worth the time. You're definitely viable. There's just DPS that are better than you, but you're perfectly fine as a Moonkin.
The biggest part of why I became a boomkin and why I had so much enjoyment out of it is because you really are an underdog. It's so hard to start out. People don't want to invite you to their groups and whatnot because it's really looked down upon. You're not seen as viable. You're seen kind of like, oh, this guy's he's trying something that's not working. He's not even worth our time. So it's very satisfying to put yourself in.
I will say it was a lot harder on private servers trying to be a Moonkin and starting out than it was in Classic. Classic really wasn't an issue. If you wanted to be a Moonkin, you could be a Moonkin, and for the most part, you got invited to groups.
That underdog position and to really move up through the ranks and to really get the, I guess, appreciation of others in your raid and have them actually have a spot for you and always have you in that raid. And look forward to having you in that raid because they know what you're capable of. There's a lot of other specs that are like this too. First person that comes to mind on YouTube as well is
Esfan.
With Rhett Pally. That's another spec that is seen just not viable at all, but as you can see, he's kind of earned the trust of everybody. When you think Esfan, you think of Rhett. There's no question behind it. He's always going to have a raid spot somewhere in Vanilla WoW. So you could definitely earn your reputation and be known for it. Now, number two,
I feel like that's kind of part of the appeal when it comes to kind of the meme specs in Classic, is that you really build a reputation for yourself, and you kind of get known if you are actually good as that spec. Like, oh, even though he's a Moonkin, yeah, we're going to invite him to the group because he's a good player. I think that really is part of the appeal when it comes to playing these meme specs, at least for me personally.
Two on this guide, I want to point out that I am not pushing everything to the max. I'm just kind of an average player, but
Very true. I'm not trying to be number one. I feel like a lot of people see that I make content on guides and whatnot, and they figure I'm trying to be like the number one and the best. Frankly, especially after Classic, I could not give any less of a fuck. I mean, I'm just here to have fun. I'm not trying to be number one on anything. It was a little bit, to be honest, it was a little bit annoying for a little bit streaming, especially during like Blackwing Lair, for example, because you had all these people coming in and they would like sit there and nitpick all the little things. You're not going cat DPS on this. Oh, you're wasting mana right here. You're doing. I'm here to have fun. I could care less. However, I can recognize what I am doing wrong or ways to improve, and kind of recognize like, okay, there are things that are better. Here's the best way of doing things. Am I going to do it every single time? Absolutely not. I love raiding with my guild because it's just a good time. You're hanging out with friends. It's not Classic WoW isn't entirely like you have to have your mind on 100% and doing everything right. A little bit next, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, it's a pretty chill time. Just have fun. You don't have to go the extra mile on everything.
been able to get pretty far with Boomy, hovering around 7 to 15 DPS, top DPS, not actual DPS, and being able to progress with the guild from ZG all the way up to Nax and keep my position and really earn the respect of everybody on my server and my raid. So there's definitely
And I feel like I've done that again in Classic. I feel like a lot of people that watch me and play Moonkin have accomplished that as well. So honestly, that journey is really fun. It's really cool to be able to do that and kind of stick with your guild. So if you have done that, GG.
A few things I believe people can really push to the max on what I'm gonna say slash do and really make boomies I think top. And I'm really hoping this guy maybe helps someone out, maybe someone who's listening to this when Classic WoW does come out, to really make boomies something when it comes out, because we're still very looked down upon. And I would love to have it when Classic WoW comes out that everybody is kind of looking forward to playing Booby. Not everybody, but it's not looked down upon, you know?
And I think for the most part, it is kind of like that. Sure, we still get shit talked on, but for the most part, you get invited to groups. I hardly ever see Moonkins not get invited to groups. The only time I've seen this was when a Moonkin was wearing half tier 2, and then the other half was Pharaoh gear. His main weapon was a mace from Blackwing Lair Trash that had like agility, stamina, all that on, like a Pharaoh weapon. And he was the only one that got kicked, and that wasn't because he was a Moonkin, that's because he was just a bad player. So for the most part, you're fine.
Alright, so I'm just going to start with professions. Number one, you have to have tailoring up to 300 for the simple fact that Bloodvine is going to be your best in slot.
Very true.
It comes
Bloodvine
with
is
so much
still,
hit, and you
like,
really
really
want that
good.
2% crit with the 300
It's your
tailoring
best in slot.
bonus. Second,
And what's crazy, it's that it's so good right off the bat of ZG. Like, it doesn't take much to really craft it, and once it's crafted, you're pretty much like on par with Nax gear. Sure, Nax gear can outperform it with spell power, but you still lose hit, and hit is really important for us. I mean, the Bloodvine is just like your core set, and you kind of want to build around it. I mean, sure, I have taken a step back, and I replaced Bloodvine with a few other off pieces so I could drop tailoring. But I came back to it, believe it or not. It's just such a solid set.
you can really go with any profession you want. I highly recommend herbalism so you can get up your herbs and whatnot, because you're going to be going through a bunch of pots, flasks. You have to be on top of your game no matter what. You can't really miss anything. Not only that, you're going to be going through mana pots like crazy.
Very
I
true.
also recommend that you get your Argent Dawn rep up to Exalted so you can grab their consumes. They do have a water that
That water is really good. However, I didn't even bother with it during Classic. Honestly, it's such like maybe if you're on Horde side because you have Undercity right there, but it's such like you have to go out of your way to get this water. So if you end up getting it, you're gonna have to get like hundreds of it to just even make it worthwhile. And then I mean my banks are full, my bags are full. It's just not even worth it. I'll just stick with getting mage water or even drinking morning glory dew, to be honest with you.
I believe
Not that the water is bad. The water is really good. This water is really freaking good. You even get a spirit buff with it, for crying out loud. But it's just such out of the
it does
way.
4,400 mana and gives you a little bit of a spirit buff as well, which is pretty nice. Can't go wrong with that. I always carry at least 200 on me at all times. Third, you're gonna need a crap ton of demonic ruins. I'm actually gonna link an older
True.
video
We're
of
still gonna
mine
be farming
where
them
I was
in
farming gold
TBC.
and happened to get demonic ruins from that farm spot. So just be easy on me. It's an older video, one of my first ones. But those are the basic things that you're gonna need to be really
Yeah, this is.
efficient in the
I
raid.
feel the same way about
As
this
far
one.
as like pre-raid best in slot, I'm gonna have a link down below in the description to kind of get that all ready for you. I'll post some pictures of what I had, but simple fact is you want to aim for 16% hit when it comes to bosses. Missing
Ooh,
a spell on a boss, it
controversial.
lowers your DPS tremendously.
Controversial.
You can run around 12% hit when it comes to trash. I usually put on a set that has a little bit more crit when it comes to trash. But for bosses, you're definitely going to need that 16% hit. I'll try to find a best in slot guide as well,
Slot.
or
Why did I
maybe
say
I
it
have
like
to
that?
make one
Best
for
in
that. I'll
slot.
see. I'll give credit to the people.
Okay, so let's address it. The elephant in the room. So 16% hit is our hit cap. Do I recommend going for it nowadays? Absolutely not. I would say treat 12% as your hit cap, honestly. And I would recommend people hover around 10% nowadays and kind of stack more spell power slash crit. You just kind of have to deal with getting a few resists here or there, and it's just not worth building up all that hit gear and losing out on that much spell power slash crit because you just want your spells to land. Sure, you might be landing them 100% of the time, or I should say 99% of the time. However, even if you land only like 80% of them with more spell power slash crit, it just equals out to be more overall, to be honest with you. So, yes, I would not aim for 16% hit, aim for 12%. If anything, go for 10% bare minimum.
I'm going to be posting as well. But I found you really want to aim for that hit, and then if you're building a trash set, aim for more crit. Spell damage, I didn't really focus on too much. It just kind of came with the gear, if that makes any sense. So having that crit is definitely worth it. All right,
My
now
lip
to actually
smacking, man.
get
Do I still do that?
into, I
Do I
guess,
still do it?
the rotation of things. Um, So there really is no dead set rotation. I've seen a lot of guides and a lot of fellow Moonkins try to have a rotation. I think the main one was 2 Starfires, 3 Wraths. Uh, I don't see a point in it personally. Uh, there's really no need for a rotation.
So there is definitely a rotation nowadays. It will not like a dead set rotation. It's more so like if you have Talisman of Ephemeral Power, for example, if you pop that, do Moonfire at the beginning of it, Starfire until the very end, and then you can actually get another Moonfire out. That just kind of you kind of optimize the amount of damage you get from the trinket, like with that little rotation. Not only that, when you're starting a pull, you can do Moonfire and then a Wrath to try to fish out a Nature's Grace proc for your Starfire. There's little things like that you could do. There is no set rotation, but you definitely there's little things that you could do to optimize your spell power or even optimize Nature's Grace. But I guess overall there technically isn't a rotation, but you definitely do want to optimize those things.
It's just I think they're saying it's mana efficient, but to be completely honest, you're gonna run out of mana no matter what. You really are. So there's no point in having that rotation. What I usually do is, believe it or not, it's gonna be a lot of intuition. You're gonna have to learn your raid,
That
who
is true
you're
though. This
with,
still rings true. Did I
how their
just
DPS
smack my
is, who's
lips
gonna
saying
target
that?
what,
Oh my
etc.,
goodness.
etc. You're gonna need to know, hey, do I have enough time to pull off a Starfire, or in that time, can I pull off a few Wraths? Basic thing.
No, but this really does hold true. Like you can really optimize your DPS by kind of just figuring out your raid. If you get to the point where you're like, okay, this trash is not going to last for a Starfire, I know that for a fact now. Start throwing out Wraths. Get that damage out there. It's no point in going for a Starfire if you know it's not going to land. You know, so kind of squeeze the damage in and learn your raid, and that will actually bring you that extra mile as a DPS.
Is you really want to keep damage going out smoothly. You don't want to have spikes of damage. So say you miss one mob, but you hit another mob and get crit 4k on a Star Wrath or something like that.
Star
Or
Wrath?
Starfire, my bad.
What?
When
I
you
just
could
smacked my
have
lip. I
thrown out
actually
like
do it still.
3 Wraths on 2 of
Oh
those
my
mobs and
goodness.
had a chance to crit and get Nature's Grace to throw out even more
I am so
spells.
sorry, guys.
The only thing I can really say when it comes to trash is open up with Moonfire. Dot every single one. That DPS is going to
I still
really
do.
help.
I think it's worth it.
But
A lot of
really, it
Moonkins,
just goes down to
a lot of Moonkins say it's not worth it to Moonfire all your trash and whatnot. I think it's really worth it. It's totally worth doing if you have the mana, I should say, and if the targets are going to actually last for a little bit. If they're going to die instantly, sure, it might not be worth it. It might be better to just throw out a Wrath, or actually Moonfire might be worth it in that situation where if you can get a Wrath out, for example. But for the most part, yes, I do Moonfire mobs because it is just worth the DPS.
like I said before, intuition. How fast is my guild going to kill this mob? So what spell can I throw out? And that's where you're really going to shine once you learn that and learn your character. So that's really about it when it comes to spells. You only have 3, by the way. You have Moonfire, Starfire, Wrath, and then Hurricane for your AoE. But that's really about it,
That's
to be
4,
completely
sir.
honest. So when you're casting those spells, of course, you're going to lose mana, and that's why Boomkins get the nickname Oomkin, because we're always out of mana. So this is what I do to
Surprisingly, not that bad in Classic, if I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like it was worse on private servers, or at least my private server, because we were just frankly bad players. I mean, we didn't have any Fury tanks. We weren't doing anything that we're doing in Classic. That's for damn sure. So I oomed a lot more, and I was playing more of a supportive role. So in Classic, there's only a handful of fights that you can really oom on. For the most part, you're fine with just mana potions and all that.
Prevent that, and it costs quite a bit, but you're an underdog. You gotta make stuff work, right? So you're going to be going through a bunch of mana pots, a bunch of demonic ruins, and hopefully your guild doesn't have you reserved on Innervate for anybody, so you can use that for yourself. But usually what I do is I'll use it on my spells, drop 1500 mana, maybe pop a demonic ruin, so I can recover that mana. Keep doing my damage and whatnot, drop another 1500, maybe 2000, pop a mana pot, get that mana back up, and then I'll keep going until I lower around 50%. Then I will actually throw an Innervate on myself and maybe switch to a staff that has a
True.
bunch of spirit.
Okay, so I know a lot of guilds don't allow their Moonkins to innervate themselves, but if you can get away with it, innervate yourself. It's so nice, dude. I've been doing it this entire time. I'm selfish. I'll admit it.
I'm forgetting the name of it from ZG. I'll have it linked in the video right now, but that one is great,
Oh,
especially when you
and
enchant with.
yeah, there's no need to switch weapons for innervate. Like I said, on the private server, sure, because the fights did last longer and all that. It's just not worth losing the spell power. However, you're gonna get the mana back. It might not be as much for like another Starfire or two, but you're losing like what? Say you have Lockamere and another offhand, you're losing like what 100 spell power for 35 spirit for an extra for for a little extra mana so you can get another Starfire out. It's just not worth that at all. Just don't switch your weapons for an innervate.
Spirit as well. So that's really what you can do to kind of maintain your mana at around the 80% range. But say you have no options, you kind of have to wait for your mana pot or demonic ruin to pop up again. What you want to do is around 70%, switch your Starfire. Not 70%, let's say 60% actually.
Switch it
Switch
in
your
the
Starfire
guide.
to rank 4 Starfire. It's going to be less DPS, but also less mana, so you can be in the fight for longer. When it comes to bosses, there's so many that you're just gonna so quickly, so you really have to conserve as much mana as you can. But 60% switch to rank 4, at 30% switch to rank 1. And always try to keep
I
enough
did the
mana
lip
up for
smacking. I'm
Reaver.
so sorry, guys.
Just
I
because
didn't
you
realize
never
I
know
did
what's
this
going to
until
happen
this
in the
video,
raid,
to be honest
and
with you.
if you
Um, for the most part, that does still hold true, except for the rank 4 part. You could just skip rank 4 altogether and only switch to rank 1. My personal rule of thumb is 30%. Once I reach 30% mana, I switch over to rank 1 Starfire and start conserving that mana while still being able to dish out damage. But yeah, for the most part, I was pretty spot on when it came to mana conservation. Pop your mana potions at like 70%, so you go back to 100%, kind of maximize your cooldowns there, and then D-rank when needed to conserve your mana to last throughout the fight. So for the most part, I feel pretty confident in what I said here. Except for the rank 4, of course. You could just skip that.
don't have your mana up and they're calling for you to revive somebody and you can't do it because you're trying to throw out extra damage, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't. Does that damage really matter? No, the raid's wiped down. But regardless,
True, yeah.
that's what I do to conserve mana.
You do not.
And it really does work.
There's no point in going full damage and not having enough mana for a Brez or even an Innervate. There's definitely druids that have done that with not being able to help out the guild. That's kind of your role. Yeah, sure, you're doing damage, especially a lot more in Classic, but you still have these core abilities that are there to help the raid and make sure that the raid makes it throughout a fight. And if you aren't saving mana for those spells, then in my eyes, you're just not worth the spot at all.
Does your DPS get affected? Yeah, but you're still in the game. That's what really counts. Alright. So I just want to add this in as well because I totally forgot about it when recording the video and I was editing, and I really want to throw this in. So another big thing when it comes to boomies that is a negative part is threat. So threat is definitely going to be a big part in how much damage you can throw out, and how much
I guess on the private server I was playing, threat was definitely a bigger issue, but in classic, threat really isn't an issue for the most part. Every single tank I've had has been really good, except for a few exceptions in dungeons. But the threat really isn't that big of an issue unless it's the very first pull. So if a tank just pulled a mob or a boss, for example, and you get a Starfire slash Moonfire crit right off the bat, you could definitely pull the boss and cause some damage to your raid or even kill yourself by doing that. So definitely watch out on the pull, but for the most part, threat isn't that big of a deal. At least for me, I haven't had any really big threat issues. I would say the only time threat becomes an issue is when a mob has like weakness. For example, Blackwing Lair, the Dragonkins or whatever, when they have like arcane weakness or nature weakness, you can have to watch your threat there. But for the most part, not that big of a deal. Just watch yourself at the beginning of a fight.
Much healing you could throw out as well. So you have to go based off your tanks on that one. If you have good tanks, you'll never have any issues. But if your tanks aren't pulling that much threat, you really have to watch your threat and watch your
Hopefully you
spells
don't have
on
this
what you're
issue.
throwing out.
Hopefully.
So I recommend KTM. Always watch that and try to stay. I usually stay hover around 3 to 4 on the threat meter. You're always going to be high up there. So uh, it's just gonna happen. You're gonna pull stuff. It's life. Uh, Thankfully, you are in boomy form, so you have that 360% armor increase and
The armor
whatnot.
does help.
So
Bark skin as well.
I just want to add that in as like a little tidbit. You really have to keep your eye on that. That's another challenge you have as a boomy. But regardless, let's move on. All right, so now I'm gonna get into what you're really used for when it comes to raiding, and how you can work your way into a raid if you really focus on these things. So not only are you going to be throwing out DPS and hovering around 7 to 15 DPS spot if you're doing things right, you also have a lot of utility that comes with you. Number
Yeah,
one,
basically
say a tank
what I
dies.
was saying before is you have your rebirth, you have your innervate, you have that armor on you. So if, for example, a mob does go on a healer, you can moonfire, pull that mob off, kind of tank it for a little bit before a tank gets it. There's a lot of things you could do to play kind of a supportive role. If I'm gonna be honest, on private servers, it was way different. You played more of a supportive role, while in classic, we're pretty much a pure DPS spec at this point. To be completely honest with you, not that we don't use our utility or bring it, but I will say on private servers, I kind of felt like I was playing more of a supportive role. While in classic, I'm dealing a lot more DPS. But I think that's about it I talked about in this video. Here, let's skip a little bit and
When you can
see
just
what's going
easily
on.
roll a mage or a warlock, and have a really easy road, a lot easier, and a bunch more guides as well. Um, I really have to say no. I don't think there is a point in doing boomy and hindering yourself. I think it's just
True. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much where I go on for the rest of the video. Is it's true. There really isn't. The only point in going boomy, if you're looking at it like as a statistic or whatever, is purely because you enjoy it and you really just like the whole Moonkin lifestyle, I guess you could say. But yeah, it is true from a stat point. There really isn't a whole lot of reason to bring a Moonkin. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, what about the spell crit for warlock slash mages?" I think if you were just to bring another mage in and kind of forego the crit, I think the DPS kind of equals out at the very least, depending on the skill of the mage slash warlock. But I mean, it's a freaking game. It doesn't really matter. Play what you want. I feel like nowadays everybody's just trying to be number one, do what they can to be the best, and they forget that this is a game. You know, sure, it's fun to be competitive, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, have fun. If you're not having fun, if you're trying to push so hard that you're kind of ruining the game for yourself, then you're playing the game wrong in my eyes. Just do what you want. So I think that's about it for this guide. Overall, I would say it's a fairly solid guide. Where there are a few things wrong, sure, the 16% hit, uh, rank 4 Starfire, but I mean, those aren't really big issues. I would say
I'm gonna have
for the most part, especially because this video is what it's 3 years old at this point. This video is 3 years old, or 2 years old. My bad, not three. 2 years old. So I would say for the most part, it held up pretty well. So let's move on to my improved guide. Let me get that real quick for you. Alright, so now we have the improved guide, and hopefully it is improved. I mean, I did shave off 10 minutes, so let's just get into it.
What's up guys, Intentional back with yet another video, and this one's going to be a more structured guide to being a Moonkin in Classic World of Warcraft. So without any further ado, let's just hop into it. Right off the bat, we're just going to dive into the talent tree. Now there's a really big
I actually forgot talents on my first guide, and I wanted to make an improved guide because I wanted to actually include the talents. So, I mean, the talents are pretty basic though.
basic layout for the build you're going to go for, with a few points going to wherever you want to specialize them. Now, we're just going to go through and grab every talent that actually does something for the spells we are going to use. Then we're going to head over to the Restoration tree, where you're going to grab Improved Mark of the Wild. What you choose next to get to the third row of talents is up to you. I personally go with Improved Healing Touch because I tend to have to hop out of Moonkin form and get some off heals going, just in case a healer does die in a raid.
True.
Last on the
I still go
Restoration
with that.
tree, and what is mandatory, is the Reflection talent. We simply need mana regeneration. There's no way around it, and that 15% is just very nice. Now, you should have 3 talent points left, and you can choose quite a few places to put them in. I personally go for Insect Swarm, mainly used in 5-mans and PvP.
Yeah, Insect Swarm.
Rarely ever used
I mean,
in
I
raid.
still use Insect Swarm. I still have a talent in it, but do I use it as often as I would like? No, not really, especially in raids because we just don't have the debuff slot for it. To be honest, I think the only boss that I really ever used it on was Lothab. Just because, I mean, it would be really nice if he missed one of his hits. But for the most part, Insect Swarm is nice if you can use it.
Due to the number of debuff spots, and other debuffs simply having higher priority. I then put the rest of mine into Thorns to help give my tank a little bit more threat. You can choose to go with
Yeah, I would say Thorns is the way to go. Do I personally use it? No. I mean, it does help with the tank, but I personally feel like it's not that big of a thing. I think that's just, sure, it does help a little bit, but is it like game breaking? Absolutely not.
few other choices though, such as Furor. This is great in surprise
Furor.
scenarios in PvP and in raid situations where a tank might die and you have to pop Bear Form to take over for a little bit. Nature's Grasp is another choice. This one is mainly for PvP use since it is only useful outside.
Okay, I know a lot of people like Nature's Grasp for PvP. Honestly, screw this talent. I don't think it's worth it at all. I've used it before, and I just feel like I don't want to rely on RNG for it, you know? I guess not RNG, it's just, I'd rather prefer Entangling Roots. Entangling Roots feels a lot better, and being able to kind of throw it out when I want to and control it, it's just way better. I'm not a fan of Nature's Grasp, man.
And it is my personal last choice to everything else I'm going to mention. And then you have Improved Entangling Roots, which again has its uses, but I find as a druid there are many more options to get out of a situation in which you are being attacked, and casting Entangling Roots while an armed warrior slamming you, for example, may not be the best. Maybe Pop Cat and then Swiftness or whatever else. I just don't really see this talent being worth it.
Well, I'll disagree. I'll disagree with this guy. I think Entangling Roots is 100% worth it, and yeah, you go in the cat, swiftness, and then you Entangling Roots the guy, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It is nice, especially if you have a pet on you, you know? You can Entangling Roots the pet, then go hibernate, and then Entangling Roots the hunter, or Entangling Roots the hunter, hibernate the pet, you know, etc., etc. I think it definitely has its uses, and that is my go-to talent now. So, disagree with this, Moonkin.
And then you have
sure.
the Feral talents. I see both being good in emergency situations, like stated before, having to switch to Bear Form in case aggro is taken. Now, as far as stats go, your priority is going to be number 1 hit. We don't get any hit from the talent, so we have to get our hit to the 16% hit cap.
Once again, don't do 16% hit. Aim for 12% hit, around 10% soft cap.
From gear.
Think of it like that.
Only gear. 12% is the soft cap, and you want to aim for that on trash mobs. I'll delve more deeply into this later on. Then we got Spell Crit. Spell Crit is pretty essential to Moonkins, not only for the damage, but because we can proc Nature's Grace from it, which will reduce our next cast time by 0.5 seconds.
Very helpful.
Allowing us to dish out more spells,
helpful.
which means more damage. Next is spell power, of course, and you want to make sure your spells are hitting pretty damn hard, so I think this one is a given. Next is intellect, and this is actually pretty on par with spell power for a few reasons. For one, we Moonkins love to chug our mana, so the more mana we have, the better. On top of that, intellect also increases our chance to crit. I'm not sure on the value for it when it comes to retail Classic WoW, so I'm not going to go throwing out numbers that aren't accurate. But it does
Very true,
increase the
yeah.
chance, which means
I mean,
more
intellect
damage
does
overall.
increase the chance of
Now, you want
crit.
to get a pretty good balance of
It's
everything and
nice.
only go overboard on the hit because you have to. But
No,
for
don't. No,
example,
no, no,
if
no,
you're
no.
stacking
Do not go overboard on the hit. Don't do that. Once again, aim for 12% hit and then stack spell power / spell crit.
spell power like crazy, switch out a few pieces for crit gear, or even more intellect if a piece drops with a crazy amount of it.
Don't do that either. Don't switch out gear for intellect. If you have a pure spell power item and you have an intellect piece drop, just stick to the spell power item. No need to switch out for intellect unless you really want the intellect. So, yeah, whatever. Yeah, don't. I don't recommend whatever I
Now, as
just said
far as
there.
your rotation, it's pretty damn simple. Keep Moonfire up and spam Starfire. Boom, you win.
Yeah, pretty
Of
much.
course, there's a lot of thinking that does go into it, however. For example, you are constantly watching your mana, so if you can't afford the Moonfires, just skip them and do Starfire. As your mana goes down, D-rank your Starfire, so you're still dishing out damage. I personally D-rank to rank 5, then rank 1 depending on my mana. And
Wait, did I say rank 4 on the other one and then rank 5 in this one? Did I switch it? I mean, either way, skip it, of course. You know, do your max rank then low rank, but that's pretty funny.
know your dungeon/raid group. Learn their DPS. If a trash mob dies fast, don't go for a Starfire. Start dishing out rats and skip Moonfire entirely. This is really where bad Moonkins and good Moonkins really show, which ones know how to read a fight and use the spells that are needed for it.
Yeah, once
As
again,
far as
true.
gear,
Um,
I
I
actually have a
mean,
Phase 1 Best in Slot guide video that I'll have linked in the description down below.
I was speaking about that. Phase 1 through 6, we did it. We have the videos out there now. I know some people would disagree with some of my choices, but I feel strongly about them. So,
I'll also be releasing videos alongside it with each phase Best in Slot before the phase actually releases, so look forward to that. Now, as far as enchants, I'll link what I personally use. Now, some of these will not be out at launch, and some enchants a few people will actually disagree with. I think the one I've gotten in several debates over is the ZG enchants over the +8 spell damage enchant from Dire Maul. Many see the plus heal.
now I'm going to explain myself here because I think I was still in the right back then. Do I feel strongly about that now? Of course not. I used the +8 spell damage, but back then I was playing more of a supportive role on the private server. I needed that intellect. I need that healing for off healing. So it just didn't make sense to go full spell damage when I just could benefit more from the stats and the healing. But I would say for now we are playing more of a DPS role. Get that +8. Don't even bother with the druid enchant from ZG unless you are playing that supportive role in your guild. And if you are playing that supportive role in your guild, I would say that you have either bad tanks, bad healers, bad something is going on, and you shouldn't even be put in that position in Classic WoW. We simply are the knowledge has gotten past what I had to do on the private server, and it's unneeded. Go for the spell damage. I will kind of stand by it in this video though, because that was my mindset back then. That was what I was doing on that private server. But once again, go for the +8 spell damage.
Healing, and I don't think it's useless for Moonkins, but my argument is we are not pure damage. We do off heal, and the intellect is nice for extra mana and overall crit. And stamina is nice for situations where mobs are going to be on you, which will happen as a Moonkin. Our threat is just ridiculous. And I'll take all that over the simple damage increase any day of the week personally. However, this is your character and you can focus on whatever you want. This is
Very
just my
true.
personal
Very
opinion.
true. These are my opinions. If you don't agree with them, you know, you're wrong. I'm just kidding. No, but I do have a few opinions that people do disagree with, but I feel strongly about my opinions, and I am willing to. I mean, if you watch this video up to until now, I definitely I'm willing to change my views and admit when I am wrong on certain things. But for the most part, I feel like I played things very well in Classic, and that I'm happy with where my Moonkin is at and where my standing is with my damage. So, yeah, it is your character. Build what you want. My What I'm saying is not 100%. I know a few people from Discord, from a few Discord channels. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm calling you out. Will they think that when we make a YouTube video, it's not godful. That's 100%. That we are throwing everything out and going, hey, this is what we believe in. This is what you're gonna be doing. If you're not doing it my way, then you're wrong. Type of deal. It's simply not true. I don't know. I gotta be honest. If you watch a video and all you do is go, "Oh no, I'm gonna point out, I disagree with this or I don't agree with that," and this guy's completely useless. Sure, go ahead and do that. That's your opinion, but it's okay for content creators to get a few things wrong here or there, and that doesn't mean that you just throw out everything they said. I had a few people when I mentioned Wrath. When I said, "Hey, throw out Wrath on mobs if you can't get a Starfire out." There's a few people that are written me off because I said that. Like, "Hey, Starfire is the way to go for everything. Wrath is just it's completely useless in that scenario. Do Starfire or Moonfire," and it's just kind of crazy that that happened. It was such a weird time when I was making these guides, it's just really weird seeing the amount of different perspectives and how people kind of consumed what I had made right here. I was just simply trying to help people out, with these guides. There wasn't a lot of Moonkin guides out there, and I said, hey, I kind of had some success with my Moonkin, so I want to make a few guides and help other people. And the feedback was very odd. There's still people to this day that if you ask them, hey, are there any good content creators for Moonkins and Classic, they'll tell you straight up no, and it kind of sucks to get written off like that, but I definitely understand and I kind of went on a little tangent here, but yes, your character is your character. Do what you feel is right, and I'm gonna say what I feel is right for my character and what I think is best for other people following me. But that doesn't mean that you have to follow it. If you're following all your content creators down to a T, I think that's kind of an issue. I think it's okay to disagree with people and have an open mind. And I don't know. I will say it sucks to just get written off. And yeah, whatever. Let's just continue.
Alright, now here's a list of the consumables that I use. There's not much to say about this other than I hope you're ready to grind like crazy.
True.
As far as professions,
Demonic Ruins was the worst, I feel, because after a while, I would say phase 4 or phase 5, I kind of gave up farming Demonic Ruins because it just got so tedious.
tailoring and alchemy is my go-to for the simple fact that tailoring is needed for the Bloodvine set bonus, which is best in slot for us Moonkins. Although it won't be available at launch, so you do have time to level something else if you want.
So pretty
And
much
that's
a
really all I
recap.
can think of at the moment. This subscribe button.
Yeah, so I would say 90% of the stuff I said in these guides still rings true to this day. Sure, there's a few things that I disagree with now and that I will change up and whatnot, but for the most part, these things are good. I like these guides. I'm happy that I put them out, and hopefully it did help people. So let me know in the comment section down below if there's a few things that you disagreed with that I said today, or some things that I might have missed in the video that you're like, hey, whoa, I kind of don't or I don't agree with that, or just your opinion on everything that kind of was talked about today. And hopefully you liked the video. If you did, hit that like button. It really does help me as a content creator. And if you want to see more, hit that sub button. We're close to 1,000. We're getting to 1,000. That is my goal. I really want to hit 1,000. So if you can help me do that, I'd be much appreciated. Anyhow, hope you guys have a good one and have a nice day. Peace!